I'm Spencer.
I'm Nathan.
And this is the Fortress of Nerditude Sidekick podcast on Black Panther. Okay, Nathan, so let's just start this off right off the top. Black Panther just came out. It has been out for like 2 days now, so we're going to hit spoilers. We're going to talk all about this film. If you have not seen this film, we're warning you now. You're going to learn things that are in the film, so either just wait a day or two, go see the movie, or just say, to heck with it, we're awesome and you want to hear it from us. So, Nathan, this is a great chance to be back with you. I know you had us on That's Entertaining podcast, and that's where you're from, also PSVG, and you were on Twitter at Voiced by Nathan.
This is all true.
Are there other places people can find you? Are you out there other ways and wheres on the internet?
There's other methods to contact me, but if you follow me on Twitter, they're all out there. So if you check out the podcast I'm on with the PSVG or That's Entertaining. Obviously, I do my shout outs there too. So those are the main spots. If you want to tell me how wrong my opinion is on Black Panther, hit me up at Voiced by Nathan.
Right. Or you can let us know at Fort of Nerd and I'll pass it along.
There you go.
So, okay, let's talk Black Panther. You saw Black Panther on opening night, Thursday night?
I did. First showing.
Okay, I just saw it this morning. I knew trying to get in a Friday night show, because I'm using Movie Pass.
Aha.
And so I knew that my chances of getting in on an early show on Saturday were much better than like Friday night, unless I wanted to sit front row.
Right, yes.
And I don't think I've sat front row in probably a good 20 years for a good reason. Mm-hmm. I don't like headaches, and I like, not having a crick in my neck. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so you saw it opening night. Tell me, what was the environment opening night?
So I saw it in Bloomington, Illinois, which isn't too far from me here, at the IMAX showing. It was a 2D show, 2D IMAX, which is my preferred method to watch it. I don't really care for 3D.
Me neither.
2D IMAX that's where I want to live. Although I haven't seen a 4DX movie yet, I really want to. Where they have like the seats that program to move and stuff, which I'm sure this is a 4DX or whatever you call it movie.
Right.
But yeah, that's on my bucket list to do that one day. Vibe of the theater was really good. It was a pretty full house. The showing was 7:00. You could do reserved seating, so people kind of showed up a little bit towards the trailers premiered on those. Everybody was wearing like comic book shirts. There wasn't anybody dressed up this time that I see it, because sometimes you see Captain America's or people dressed up as Tony Stark or something like that.
Sure.
This time I didn't see that, but people were wearing like Black Panther shirts, Marvel shirts, and it was a good vibe. You walk in there, people are excited. People were like, "Oh, shh," when like the movie started. Because it didn't start with the Marvel logo, but it just kind of started. People were like, shut up. And so everybody just like quieted down because, people were talking during the trailers, which is annoying to me a little bit because I consider that part of the movies. Just shut up. I can listen to the whole thing. But yeah, it was a really good time. In fact, there were a few Marvel trailers ahead of this. There was one for Infinity War, one for Ant-Man, one for Venom, and one for... I think that was it.
For me, there was Ant-Man and Wasp, there was Venom, there was Avengers Infinity War, and then there was Deadpool and Solo: A Star Wars Story. Those were the 5 they played.
Yeah, so we had Deadpool and
big
Solo. Big
surprise, right?
Exactly.
It's all Disney properties at this point. So,
we had Jurassic Park too, but during the Marvel, ones and those, people were like being quiet and kind of cheering for when Ant-Man showed up. That was actually the first time I'd seen the Ant-Man trailer.
Really?
By the way, I hadn't.
What did you think?
I thought it looked good as far as the Ant-Man story goes, because you think of Ant-Man, he's kind of the more lighthearted. He's got a heart of gold. He's got the whole story with his daughter. But I thought it was pretty neat the way they were working it in there. You could see them playing a lot with sizes of things. Right. So I think they're going to play a lot more with that this time. I thought the first movie was good, but it looks like they're going to step it up a little bit here, which I'm excited to see what they do. So it looks good to me. and that's coming out the end of this year, I think. So it's a big year for movies.
Yeah, there's a lot coming out. This is completely off topic, but Evangeline Lilly, what's your thoughts on her? Do you like her? Do you not like her?
She's fine. I mean, I don't have any strong.
Well, I mean, I know
feelings one way or
she's
another.
fine, but I mean, as far as an actress, how do you like her?
When I saw her in, Ant-Man, she portrayed that character the way I think that she would be. And I figured, at the end of that movie, when she finally saw the Wasp suit, that she was ready to take it. And I didn't, I thought she fit the character that I would put for her in my mind. So I think she's a good choice.
I like her for the role too, but I also liked her in Lost, and I know a lot of people didn't like her character.
I never saw Lost.
Nathan, no. For shame, sir. For shame.
It's on my list. My backlog.
What TV-wise do you have ahead of that? Because it must be some, like, if it's not like the Mike Tyson of TV shows ahead of that, you need to bump that up the list, brother.
I mean, I don't necessarily have a list like this, and this. It's just like I've never gotten around to it. And I've heard like it's a great like first few seasons, and then the last ones are kind of like blah. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to invest it just to get let down in the end. It's okay. What's going on.
So I will say that like it is a great show, but it's also one of those things where like if you were watching it as it was developing and enveloping and unfolding in front of you, and everyone around the water cooler is talking about it. What does this mean? And what does that mean? And what's the smoke monster? Like all that. That was like half of the fun with that show because it's a J.J. Abrams, flick. I mean, right? It's he leaves things open. He leaves little, trails of breadcrumbs. You start to follow, and then you're like, and we're taking a left turn, and that plot line's abandoned, but now it's gone and twisted, and it's crazy. It is still a good show. I will admit there is a season or two that was kind of not as great, but then there was some like real strong parts in some of the later seasons, like little character arcs that really like help redeem certain characters or help vilify others that I felt were really, really good. So, yeah. Evangeline Lilly, I loved her in that show. I thought she was great as the character she played there. And so I've always liked her, but I know she gets kind of a lot of hate, and I don't know if it's her or if it's some of the writing for her and some of the stuff. I know a lot of people were all upset that she was in the Hobbit movie because her character doesn't exist in the books. And it's like, okay, take a break, guys.
Right.
We're talking about a fictional world that an author wrote, and now we're talking about a fictional world that's on film about a book that the author wrote. I was like, a little bit of creative license, I get it. Mm-hmm. We're okay. Anyway.
Plus, I mean, people carry baggage from previous iterations, so if they didn't like her character in a different show, then they're going to carry that in. For me, I guess I didn't have any preconceived notions before I saw it, so I was like, hey, good, whatever, you're fine.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So I went to see it, like I said, this morning, getting back to Black Panther. I went to see it this
20 minutes later.
Right, exactly. That tends to happen with me. I saw it this morning, and I got to say, like, the mood was just like, it was subdued. I mean, it was 11 in the morning, so it's not like early. It's not like a 7 a.m. show or anything.
And you're in Utah,
like
yeah?
Yeah, I'm in Utah. So it's 11 a.m. I walk in, I get my seat. There was a guy wearing a Cubs hat next to me, and so we started chatting. But the place was packed. It was full at 11 in the morning. But I didn't see, like, as I was going out, because I always try to watch for those things, people coming in and out. Are they wearing comic book shirts? Are they wearing, anyone dressed up? No one's dressed up at 11 in the morning on a Saturday.
Did you see cat ears on people or Black Panther ears on people?
No one.
There were a lot of people wearing those in my showing. I forgot about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's dressed up for a Saturday morning 11 a.m. show. But it was surprisingly mostly adults. There was a few kids that were in there, but not a lot. I would imagine that like a 7 p.m. show opening weekend, you might get a little more of a little younger, families taking kids maybe, but 11 a.m., like it was, I don't know, it was just all adults pretty much that was in there. So it was just kind of, I'd say like a normal thing. It didn't have the hype, which I kind of miss because for like a big movie, like a big kind of tent pole, a big, popcorn type of movie, like I want to have that experience. I just couldn't get it to work out so I could go Thursday or Friday night. For a number of reasons. And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say for a number of reasons, and then the movie pass reason.
Yeah.
But
do you think the climate of the people that you saw with on Saturday were people that are going for a second showing, or people that are seeing it the first time?
Tough to say, because I heard a lot of people kind of like just around me, like when things would happen in the movie, you hear him go, "Oh, is that da da da?" Or "Oh, hey, is that da da da?" Like something like that. So it kind of felt like maybe the people immediately around me were going for their first showing and not like a repeat view.
Okay.
So,
you know what was interesting about this movie that other movies haven't done in this area is there was actually local news coverage about Black Panther on Friday.
Really?
And I don't know if it was because of it being, Black Panther or what it was, just kind of like that cultural change where people are kind of hyped for it. But then there's the whole Rotten Tomatoes backstory going on right now too. But there was actually local news coverage and there was reporters at the theater and it was actually lined up at that one of the Peoria theaters here too on Friday, which was the actual quote unquote opening day. And movies here typically don't have news coverage at all. Like,
right.
Nothing. So it was kind of interesting to see that. And I don't know if that had just an effect of, people kind of being hyped about the movie, the high critic review it's getting, and the whole thing with people trying to go on to sabotage the scores, whatever. But it was interesting. That doesn't happen.
So let's talk about the hype for a minute, because you brought up the scores. I know that right immediately after the embargo was lifted, this was 2 weeks ago, I think, after the embargo was lifted on reporters that had seen the movie, with the big opening in Hollywood, that it was sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes critics score. Mm-hmm. And then it fell 1 to 99. Mm-hmm. And I remember because people on Twitter were freaking out that it dropped to 99. They're like, this person doesn't have a good reason. His whole thing was that he didn't fight a lot of people. That, Black Panther doesn't fight a lot of people. And that biased him. And people that just laid into this critic on Twitter. But then a day or two later, I think it was someone had to be the first one, because then another critic gave it a bad review and it dropped to a 98, and then it dropped to 97. Last time I checked, which was this morning right before I went in, it was sitting at a 97. So it's dropped 3 points. Let's be honest.
That's
97
still an A, right?
is still an amazing score on Rotten Tomatoes, right? So, but let's talk hype though. This movie is being hyped up for a few reasons. One, because everyone says it's the first comic book movie that has a black lead, which
not true.
Incorrect, right? Can we talk about Blade?
I know, right?
Right? Wesley Snipes, not to sound racist or anything, but he's not a white guy. He's not. That happened years before this movie.
That was one of the first ones. Wasn't even that around X-Men time? That first salvo?
Yep, I think he was the first one, at least a black male to lead a comic book movie. But what Black Panther does have, though, is this. It has a black male lead. It has a pretty much all black cast. Not entirely, because you do have Klaus and Ross.
All I know of them as is their actual names, Martin Freeman and
Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis, right? It's Everett K. Ross and Klaus, whatever his name is.
Claw. Ulysses S. Claw.
There you go. Ulysses S. Claw. Klaus. Klaus. It's white and German sounding. But it's a story set pretty much in Africa about this African setting with all these black actors, and it's kind of futuristic, and it portrays black people in a very positive light. They're sophisticated. They've got a lot of technology. They've got this, almost utopia that they've built for themselves, that they kind of keep themselves kind of hidden away from the rest of the world. And so, also, I believe the director was black. So, it's this for a superhero movie, it's very different than everything else we have seen to this point in the MCU.
Right.
That's what it does have going for it. That is what is different. But Wesley Snipes in Blade, though, back in the early 2000s, he does get the first, hero, I guess, but still.
And I'm looking just to make sure of myself here, but I believe also that so this movie was unique for a Marvel film for the music side as well, because it releases an actual a score, which most of them do, but it also has the music from and inspired by, which I believe.
You're talking Kendrick Lamar, right? Who did all the music?
Kendrick Lamar did a lot of it for the other side. but I'm trying to find who, because Ludwig Jorgensen, I'm trying to see if I can find a little bit more about him, because I think there's a story behind him as well. But if I can find it, I'll let you know. But aside, the music in this film is fantastic. It is so good.
It was fantastic. The only thing, and this is like where like the side of me that trailers can freaking ruin movies for me, because if there is great movie in a trailer and it's banging, like I want to hear that in the movie, and I usually am let down. Like I go back to it and I say it so much it probably sounds old to everyone. Freaking Suicide Squad. Like the music in that trailer had me hyped for that. But then the movie was a bomb. The music in the trailer for Black Panther had me hyped for this movie. The song that was in the trailer was not used in the film, but the music that was there was excellent. I felt like it helped lead or lend itself to like the overall experience. You know, you had some of these beautiful shots, but the music behind it was just as rich and just as deep. That like helped you like almost feel that you were there while you were watching this. So I loved it. But you know, hype, man. So like we got all this hype, right? We had this great trailer. You know, we've got all this stuff going for us. You know, everyone's talking this up. It's got a great Rotten Tomatoes score. And there's this big push, and then there's a little bit of controversy. People are trying to, you know, juke the scores on Rotten Tomatoes or whatnot.
So
and people, you know, say, you know, oh, you know, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. And, you know, let's be honest, there's going to be idiots everywhere on the internet. It happens. And people are going to sling a lot of unfounded accusations. I don't look at that. I look at all the hype, though. I know that this thing sold out or pre-sold more tickets than any Marvel movie to date. And then we go and see it. Just give me your first overall impressions after all the hype. Does it live up to the hype for you?
So you want my impression of the entire film, start to finish, just like in a word?
I want your impression of did the movie live up to the hype, all the press and all the media and the hype going into it?
So I insulated myself a little bit from a lot of that because I saw the numbers because you couldn't really avoid them.
Sure.
But I didn't read the reviews, so I knew the vibe going in was high. You know, that's kind of how I went in. My expectations were tempered because, you know, I don't know much about the Black Panther character going into it. All I know is what I've seen in Civil War and some cursory stuff that I know from the comics and that I've read in the past. But going in, so I had expectations that I was going in to see a good movie because I liked, is it Chadwick Boseman who plays Black Panther? I liked his portrayal of him in Civil War. I liked his guards that were in Civil War too, so I really wanted to find out more about that. And going in thinking about the hype and the expectations and if this met them or not, yes. So there was one thing that was kind of funny because I was talking to one of my coworkers before on Thursday. I was like, you know, I'm going to go see it tonight. He's like, oh, you gotta tell me what it is. And he's like, everyone is saying it's a masterpiece. He's like, that's the tagline. It's a masterpiece. And I'm like, you know what? If it is a masterpiece, I'll text you or something tonight and just be like masterpiece, one word. And you know, I sent a text out and my thoughts on it, just a couple words, and then he replied back masterpiece. The next day when I saw him, I was just like masterpiece.
Really? Okay. So here's the thing for me: all the hype. I'm excited. Like this thing, I thought the trailer was banging. I was so hyped for it. I went in this morning and I watched the movie and I didn't love it. I liked it. I think it's a really good movie. It stands on its own. Like if you haven't seen like the 17 other movies that came before it, I definitely feel like it stands on its own. But to the level that the hype was, it wasn't there for me. Like I kind of walked away going, I'm a little bored. Like I never in the film like I never like pulled out my phone and started texting or doing anything like that, and I never like my thoughts never like really strayed. But I kind of felt like it just kind of followed the Marvel formula, and it had all the kind of the right beats where I expected them to be. There wasn't many shocks. There wasn't many twists to it. Everything kind of felt like how I kind of felt like it should go. And I kind of came out of it going, I didn't love it. And maybe I'd hype myself up way too much for it. And that could be.
And that's the thing too. So what I've come to realize over the last few years is that, especially with Star Wars,
right.
I stay away from the trailers. Like, I'll just stay away from as much as I can. I might watch them once, but I used to watch them over and over and over and pore over them because things aren't in the movie that are in the trailers and vice versa. Like, you look at Rogue One, that entire 70% of that trailer wasn't in that movie.
Correct. Yeah.
So I approach movies a little bit differently because I know I'm going to go see Black Panther. So I just kind of, as much as I can, just do a media blackout. Because there's no reason for me to want to find out more, because I appreciate films for walking into a theater, sitting down in the dark with a group of people, especially on opening night,
right,
and really getting that communal experience, and I form my opinions then. I don't try to take anything in with me. That's why I don't read reviews before I go in. Like I said, you can hardly ever not avoid the numbers, but just kind of take a sense of a vibe, because you can't overhype something before you go in. I remember a movie I went into, Interstellar. It's a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yep.
I loved Inception. I love the Dark Knight movies. You go in, and this was a great cast. It was a lot of great music and everything. Hans Zimmer, I love his music. But you go into the movie, and you have this hype level that I built up for myself. The critics had it built up. And I walked away with that one saying that was the stupidest movie ever. Like, not really, but for the expectations that I had, for that hype that I had built up for it, and so ever since then, I just try to really temper my expectations. It's hard for me a lot of times. Like, it's hard for me for a big tentpole Star Wars movie to temper expectations, or for an Avengers movie, like an actual Avengers movie.
Right.
Because again, with Avengers 2, that was kind of a letdown in a lot of ways. If you had that hype expectation going in.
Sure.
So I've learned over the years, stay away from trailers and everything as much as you can, and then just go into a movie and watch it, because I'm already sold, because I know it's part of this big cinematic universe. It's part of the Avengers story. I'm going to be there. I don't need any more than that, because they're not selling me. Trailers aren't for me. I've learned that over the years, is that they're for people who don't even know what's happening in the
right, or on the fence maybe.
World. Yeah, because like my brother or my parents wouldn't know that there's a movie coming out unless there's a trailer on TV for it or something. Like, oh, there's a new movie coming out.
Right.
Me, I'm like, I know it's coming out a year from now, 2 years from now. So,
did you hear there's an Infinity War movie? Another Avengers? You're like, yeah, I've known for like 4 years now.
Literally, my parents are just like, hey, I heard they're doing another Star Wars movie. I'm like, they're doing like all kinds of Star Wars movies.
Right. You're going to get one a year for the next 40 years. Be prepared.
You might get 2 a year pretty soon here, but
right.
We'll leave that alone.
Right. So basically what you're saying is we should have learned from the hype of Star Wars Episode 1 and the big layoff between Episode 6 and Episode 1, and we should have known better. That eventually we're going to get a Jar Jar situation, and we're going to feel extremely let down because we were too hyped. Like the bar was high. I think that maybe that's what it was. Like
Marvel's had their Jar Jar situation. That was the Inhumans. Oh, that was so bad.
See, I stayed away from that because it looked bad. It just looked, the trailer looked bad, and I was like, and then I heard like reviews after the first episode. I was like, yep, I missed that one. Although you could also say technically Marvel, because if you want to go back a ways, you could say, the Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer movie.
But that wasn't MCU.
It was, it wasn't MCU. It was Marvel, though.
Or X-Men 3. Oh, good God.
Ugh! Or Daredevil.
I would watch Daredevil any day over X-Men 3. X-Men 3 is just so bad. Elektra is another bad one.
Oh, Elektra was bad, too. Now, the Netflix stuff is good, but the movies. Okay, so let's talk about this, because this movie literally picks up. I mean, we get a little flashback at the beginning, and it's like drops us back into like 1992. But realistically, this movie picks up, I'd probably say like right at the end of where Civil War ended, right? Mm-hmm. So T'Challa, the Black Panther, has gone back to Wakanda, and this is just right after his father died. And the movie picks up, and basically in their culture, he's next in line. He will be the king. And so there's 5 tribes, and basically anyone from the 5 tribes can elect a champion. They can fight him, or anyone from the royal line can challenge him. And basically it's either a fight to the death or fight to submit. And of course, like, it's like no one's going to challenge him. No one's going to challenge him except for that one tribe that lives up in the mountains, and those guys are kind of crazy. And T'Challa fights him and all this, and then, he ends up winning, and so he's crowned the king. So that's where the movie starts off. So it's like right away, it's like, bang, we're just moving right on. This just right after the tale of Civil War. It's not like a big layoff. I did like that aspect of the movie. I like when you're going to come into something that should have some sort of a continuation, that it's not like 7 years later, that, because that wouldn't make sense. But I liked how it picked up right there. But basically this story all revolves around, in essence, the little flashback we get at the very beginning of the movie, right? You see T'Challa's father, and I'm trying to remember his name, the former king of Wakanda, we'll just call him. He basically confronts his brother, who is living in Oakland at the time, who had kind of left Wakanda and was supposed to be kind of a spy out in the world to kind of see how things are going.
They call him a war dog.
Yeah, a war dog, which I think in the comics they were called dogs of war. So they kind of just flipped it. Anyway, his brother basically steals a bunch of vibranium, because that is the one thing that Wakanda has, right? They've got all the vibranium basically, or the majority of it, and they're kind of protecting that, and they use that to fuel all their tech. The king confronts his brother. The brother ends up going to shoot one of the guys with the king. The king kills him right there, and then leaves his body. But the brother has a son. He doesn't kill the son. He leaves the son. So here's my question. If you're in that position, are you merciful? Do you leave the kid alone? Or do you go like Scar from The Lion King and try to take out the son as well, so no one can challenge your throne later on?
So in the beginning, I didn't realize necessarily that he had a son. So I know that it focused on the kids playing basketball outside, but I just kind of figured that was like just a scene, right? They were kind of set to that, pan up to the room and see him in there. But I didn't necessarily put that together that he had a son until a little bit later, when you started to see this guy doing and stuff. It's like, oh, I bet you he's related, and it's probably the brother, and then he's going to challenge. So I started putting that together towards the challenging part. But right there, I didn't really think about it. But you say, in that situation, what would I do? If, first off, his suit's bulletproof, right? Maybe possibly at that point, I'm not sure. But yeah, he could have just jumped in front of the bullet, not even had to kill him. You know what I mean? That's what I would have done. I
mean, true. But his brother was a traitor, though, as well.
He was a traitor, but he should have been taken back to Wakanda for trial.
I agree. That probably would have been better. But that's not what he chose. He chose to end his brother and put him down there. So if you knew that kid was out there, do you take the kid back home? Do you kind of pull an Odin, right, in the first Thor movie, where he talks about, like, he kills the frost giants, and so it brings Loki back, Do you do that and you keep him under your wing and, like, tell him about who his father really was, and his father betrayed their people, and raise him? Do you kill the kid, or do you just leave the kid?
I would, if I was in that situation, I knew the kid was there, I would take the kid. Because at that point, he's a Wakandan, he's... Right. You're the king of that people, and he is now a fatherless boy, and I believe it falls to a king to take care of fatherless boys. So I would take him back to Wakanda and watch over him and help raise him as your own son, even though he's your nephew. Right.
Of course, that's not what happens in this film. So I picked up that one of the boys must have been the son, only because they seem to focus way too long on the kids playing basketball. Because they showed them kind of like leading into the scene, and then they showed them after the scene looking up, and like kind of everyone's paying attention. And so like I was like, man, they're spending way too much time on these kids. And I thought, I bet you one of the kids is like that brother's kid. And I kind of had that thought. And then later when it's revealed, I'm like, yeah, I called that. I mean, it made sense. Otherwise, it's like, you show the kids playing basketball and you go right up. You don't spend time there. It just felt like it lingered a little too long for me.
The spy that was there placed with his brother, I didn't realize that was that other older guy until later.
Yeah, me neither. That I didn't get. That was Forrest Whitaker who played the older version.
Guerrera.
Right, exactly. I was like,
I was just waiting for Borgolet.
Yeah, I was waiting for this. Go, Jin, go.
But he actually acted well in this movie. Like he had a good acting presence in this movie, whereas in Star Wars,
not so much. No.
Yeah, he took a different decision.
I think Forrest Whitaker, like just being completely real, I think he's an excellent actor. Mm-hmm. I think he could probably act anything. However, I think in Star Wars Rogue One, I don't know that his character was given all that much, and he was probably told like, no, you need to kind of act like you're, a half crippled man who can't breathe, and that's why you got this thing, and you can barely talk, and so you need to sound affected, and because his voice had that sound to it as he got yeah, and that got a little annoying. Forrest Whitaker, though, was great in this film. Chadwick Boseman was great in this film. I want to say everyone in this film I thought did really, really, really well. Mm-hmm. I loved the interplay between him and kind of like his, I don't know, like ex-girlfriend, maybe you'd say, mm-hmm. Which is the actress is Lupita Nyong'o, who also is a character in Star Wars. She plays Maz. Yep. But her character in the movie is Nakia. Mm-hmm. And like I thought like the interplay there, because like you could tell like they'd had something at one point, but like there was still something there, but like they never truly, like they never made the movie about like the romance. They never played that up, which I liked. I think if they would have been like, and there's this romance going on, it's like, all right, Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, mm-hmm. All right, Ant-Man and the Wasp, all right, Captain America and every single girl that Captain America ever sees, so I was okay with that. Martin Freeman, who plays Everett K. Ross,
mm-hmm.
the CIA agent. What do you think of him, like in the MCU so far?
I think he's fine as just like a CIA kind of agent person. He doesn't really stand out, but he's kind of just like a side character that's like a perfect one that can just kind of fold into the back of the scenery, and then he can add a couple words here and there, then kind of fold back in.
Does he remind you of Agent Coulson much?
Not really. Coulson had more of a role to me because he was S.H.I.E.L.D. Like he was part of, what starts the Avengers. With Coulson, or with Martin's character, he's just a CIA agent. He's nothing special. Like if he becomes part of S.H.I.E.L.D., then maybe I would think of something else about him. But as just like a government agent, I don't really see him as like a leading character necessarily. But it's fun to see him on the screen. And he's kind of like our entrance into like getting understanding Wakandan technology and things like that. So he's kind of our gateway, and it's useful in that sense. But as far as his character, I mean, he's fine. I kind of expected maybe a little bit more from him in a way, just because it's Martin Freeman, right? And he's been in the Hobbit movies, Lord of the Rings,
Guide to the Galaxy, Lord of the Rings,
yeah. And he's Watson in the BBC Sherlock show. I mean, I know him from a lot of different things, but he in this playing an American CIA agent was fine, and served the movie to the capacity that he needed to, but without going above or without going below. He was just right on.
Here's my prediction with his character. His character is going to become part of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the reason I think that is because he had a role in Civil War, right? He was hunting down Bucky Barnes. He was hunting down the Winter Soldier, right? He's been tasked with that. Then in this movie, he's hunting down, or kind of working with Claw in an attempt to basically get their hands on some vibranium, and he'd also been after Claw for a while, so like there was that kind of interplay. But then he ends up getting drug into the middle of Wakanda and kind of becomes part of helping the resistance of T'Challa against Killmonger later in the film, and like he actually has kind of a role, like he ends up keeping these weapons from going out into the wider world. And so I think because he's got a peek behind the wizard's, cloth there, and he can see what's really going on. And knowing some of the other things that he's kind of had some ties into the Avengers a little bit, I think his character is going to kind of morph into, eventually he's going to be deputized into S.H.I.E.L.D. and he's going to become a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and kind of be responsible. That's just a guess, but I think that would make sense because otherwise, why are we bringing him back up in another MCU movie? Why not just some random guy? So.
Well, it's kind of nice to have that continuality, I guess, between the two. Because we know that character is a Black Panther character, so is Claw, when we saw them in the previous movies. So it's kind of nice to have him in a actual Black Panther movie. And then having other characters peppered in throughout other Marvel movies just kind of adds to that living world that they're in. So I like it from that aspect, too. I'm waiting for a scene in Avengers, probably, between Robert Downey Jr., Benedict Cumberbatch, and Martin Freeman. There just has to be
some sort of Sherlock reference somehow.
Right, exactly. Like he's standing in between both of them and it's like something about Watson, then they both look at him, he kind of looks around, or just, I would love that. Like,
just a little Easter egg. Exactly. Just a little one. Michael B. Jordan, the guy who plays Eric Killmonger, right?
So good.
I have loved him as an actor for a long time. I thought he did great in this movie.
He was the Human Torch in the failed Fantastic Four movie.
That's right. The one that I refused to see because the others weren't that great, and that one looked even worse.
And he was phenomenal in Creed, too.
I have not seen Creed.
Ooh, Creed is really good. If you like the Rocky movies at all,
which
Creed
I do,
is perfect for like a modern take on it. And he's really, if you like his performance here, go watch Creed because it's fantastic.
Okay, I will. Well, let's talk about the badass women in this film.
Oh, all of them?
Every single woman in this, like, I did love that aspect of the movie. Like, there was not like a single woman in this movie that wasn't portrayed as being either or all of the above. Smart, strong, possessing their own, like, self-determination, their own will. Like, they're not going to wait around for anyone to tell them what to do. They're just going to do it on their own, right? They've, they got a backbone, they got a spine. And it seemed like all the women that were featured in the movie, like, all had a role. Like you had, Angela Bassett, who is the mother of the departed king, and she has a son and a daughter, and her son's gonna take over, and like she's kind of there to kind of help, still kind of shepherd the transition. You've got the daughter of the old king, the sister to T'Challa.
She's awesome.
Like, she's awesome. Someone put it to me. They said she is the James Bond Q equivalent in this movie.
I kind of thought that too, because they went on a mission and she's supplying all the tech. It kind of felt like that to me too.
Right. And then you've got the general that's played by Lupita Nyong'o, Nakia. Then you have I'm gonna butcher this, Danae Gurira, who plays Okoyo. Okoyo, maybe, let's say Okoyo.
The general, right?
No, Okoyo was the girl, like the ex-girlfriend that he kind of froze up around at the very beginning. He like goes to rescue her.
I thought that was Lupita Nyong'o.
Google time. Sure. Either way, they were amazing.
Yeah.
They were fantastic. I loved that. I really did love that we had some very, very strong women being portrayed in this movie. Oh yeah, you're right. Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia is the former lover and war dog, the undercover spy.
And Okie is the general, I believe.
Right. It just the women were great, and I think it's good, not to get too much into kind of the political stuff that's been going on in Hollywood lately, but it was really nice and refreshing to see a movie that had a lot of really strong women that wasn't being like touted as like look at us, we've got a woman as the lead and a woman director, and like they weren't trying to like push that, but it was just that was there. Like it was just a great portrayal without saying like, look at me, I'm patting myself on the back at the same time. And I did enjoy that. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this, because this was something that was like really kind of just, I don't know, it didn't sit right with me. Right. The daughter Shuri, the amazing tech person, right? Martin Freeman's character, Everett Ross, he gets shot in the spine, and they bring him back to Wakanda, and she's like, oh, with vibranium we can do this, and she takes a little marble and she puts it in the hole in his back. And then the next time we see him, he's waking up. He's like, oh, hey, no blood. I'm good. No explanation for how he's healed. No explanation for how there's no explanation how any of their tech is actually, how the vibranium actually powers it. It said, vibranium powers all of our weapons and our trains.
Now, tread lightly here, because now you're getting to the point of midichlorians.
No.
No.
We're not going that crazy. So it fuels their weapons. It fuels their tech. It magically heals. It also, the whole little heart, I don't know what that was, like mushroom thing, the little whatever that they ground up, and immediately when they grind it up, it becomes like this steaming liquid, which I thought seemed a little weird, but whatever. You drink that and then you get, heightened awareness and strength, the power of the Black Panther and so on. There was no explanation how any of this worked. Iron Man worked out really great because you saw him building the first Iron Man suit and putting it together, and you get repulsor lifts. Okay, here's some of the technology. You can see some of the overlays, and it's computer systems that are doing some of this, and you understand how missiles work and, rocket guided missiles. There's some of that, right? But this is a technology based, society that's just magically powered by a asteroid that hit the planet, and there's no real explanation. And I kind of felt like I could have done without a few other parts of the movie, and maybe just a little deeper. It didn't have to go long for me, but a little deeper into that, because otherwise it's like, hey, this is just the magic pill that we have. Don't you worry about these droids. As I wave my hand across your face, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Just like, I'm doing magic here, and this little magic pill we drop, marble we put in his back does the trick. Mm-hmm. For me, I would have liked more. I could have used more there, just a little bit more, something.
So, you're watching a comic book movie that
I know
that a guy has a hand that has a cannon in it,
right?
And we're accepting that there's a super serum out there, and that there's Thor is out there doing his thing, and the Hulk is out there doing that all stuff. We kind of have some explanations there, and there's the Guardians. We don't know about Groot, but we kind of accept him. He's an alien.
Right.
But when it comes to something that more localized on Earth, that's when you want more explanations.
Just because it's tech, because they specifically mentioned that everything is power, that this powers all their tech. So Tony Stark, his suit was powered by what?
The arc reactor.
The arc reactor. And they showed the arc reactor. They kind of explained how they tried using the arc reactor in the past and kind of what it does somewhat. Right? At least maybe a little pseudoscience, maybe not full details. I don't need schematics of this stuff.
I do. Yeah. They had them.
Right. But it was just hey, we've got all this amazing tech and we're this great society, this utopia, and we're not going to tell you anything about it.
So thinking about Iron Man, the arc reactor in particular, that played a pivotal role in all those movies because that's his core to his character, because it's actually literally keeping him alive.
Sure.
Keeping that away. So that is a big plot point and piece. And he has to develop a way to enhance that and keep it going, and then decides that he can power things from it, because that's just kind of how it all naturally develops. With this, the story is not about vibranium. It's really not. The story is about the kingdom. The story is about the people. The story is about the Black Panther, his decision how to lead.
Sure.
The story, I would rather focus on that, the civil side of things, and then we can get the tech stuff later. We can kind of fill it in our own minds how things might work. The things that we needed to know, like with the sonic dampeners on the trains, we knew that because there was going to be a fight there.
Right.
So we were informed about that. We knew what we needed to know to understand how it worked. The black little magic bead, yeah, you don't really get the details there, but if they would have gone in to talk about that, you may have wanted it. But you think about the 13-year-old, 12-year-old kids who just want to see continue on, the storyline, and they'll start being bored at a tech talk, you know what I mean? So it'd be a really hard way to
I'm not looking
convey
for a TED talk on the issue though. It doesn't need to be that deep. But if they just said the power of this, has the ability to, I don't know, excite the cells, and vibration causes blah blah blah, and it does that. Give me 30 seconds, something. But I just kind of felt it was like, and we're waving our magic wand, and now we've got all this like awesomeness. Like the whole suit is contained inside of the necklace.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to push it. There's not
He just
like a
thinks about
button.
it.
There's not a trigger. He just thinks about it, and like then all of a sudden, like the suit magically appears and covers him.
But there was a thing that she did on the back of his neck at that one point when he decided which one he liked to kind of link it up to him. Do you remember that?
I remember.
He was looking at him.
Things. I remember putting things on the back of the neck for the communication.
Like there's something on the back of their necks, all of them. And when he decided which one he liked, she kind of synced it up.
Like a little purple, like subdermal kind of glow. I do remember that. Yes. Okay. I mean, it's a little far-fetched, but sure. You are right. Let's pull back because I mean the tech stuff that's a side of me that's probably not gonna be resolved because I'm just gonna be like, I wish there would have been more.
Mm-hmm.
With some of the, like you brought up some of the other characters, like Thor. Okay, he's from a different planet. They have magic. Same thing with Doctor Strange. That's a magic world. So like, if they're already saying like, hey, this is magic, I can suspend reality a little further. But when they're saying, hey, this is tech, I'm like, okay, I work in IT. Like, I kind of get some tech stuff. I have somewhat of an idea of, how some things work. And nothing. I mean, it was just like, how does it power the weapons? How does it, fix people? Like, I'm sure they use it in crop production. I'm sure they use it for water purification. I want to know how. Anyway.
Well, they're not going to tell you how it all works as an outsider. I mean, you're not going to get that information.
That is true. I'm not a Wakandan, so.
So maybe that's why, because he was an outsider. If somebody else was out there asking how this worked, they'd probably tell him. But
foiled again.
As an outsider, he wasn't going to find out.
So yeah, let's move on. Otherwise, we're going to talk about that for an hour. So there's the big fight scene, right? So you've got this whole thing where you have this moment where like the buddy of T'Challa, who's like grown up with him, right? His whole time, like basically decides to like turn on him because he didn't do something that he wanted him to do, right? Because he wanted him to go kill Claw or bring him back to trial. And like he slipped through his hands, and T'Challa, he's like, realizes that there was another Wakandan that had, this great ability, saved him. And so the buddy like turns on T'Challa. I thought that felt a little flimsy and a little weak, only because it's like, you've been best friends for how long? You lost people, but like he just lost, T'Challa just lost his dad. It's like there's other stuff going on too. And it was like, you didn't do what I wanted you to do, so now we're mortal enemies and I'm going to go against you. That turn felt a little quick. Especially then to side with to side against him with a challenger, and then to basically like try to pull off a military coup, so to speak. To me, that felt a little quick. But I definitely think that Killmonger's like rationale, his reasoning for wanting to kill everyone in authority and in Wakanda and take over, like to me that felt right. Like there felt like there was real emotions tied to what happened in the past, that like that would have festered for a long time and that would have been with him. So for me, that felt authentic. I don't know. What about you? Did that feel like authentic enough for you, or?
So we never really knew the depth of their friendship. We just kind of saw them hanging out. We knew that there was some background. They look around the same age. They've probably grown up. But the other character, and I can't remember his name at this point, he was raised as a warrior. He's the leader of a warrior tribe. They have those rhinoceros that are, with the armor and bred to fight as well. And, he even said, you tell me to go do it and I'll go attack whoever. But, he said that wasn't our way. But you could tell already that his philosophy is that war mentality. He wants to affect change. He believes that war is the only way to do it, where Black Panther says no. I mean, the way that we need to do things is by sharing, by not overtaking everybody, but really just like opening ourselves
diplomacy.
To the world. Exactly. Diplomacy. So because of the background and the mentality and the way that he was raised and his position as a warrior leader, you can kind of see how that would happen. However, he was probably using the flimsy reasoning of, well, dude was a king. Technically, Killmonger was a king for a little while, and he was following the king just like his love was. But once his love realized that King is alive, challenge was ongoing, then when Killmonger decided to say, no, the challenge is over, that's when, he kind of chose his choice. At that point, he was already geared up to fight. He had that warrior mentality already brewing in his mind, and once you flip that on, that kind of clouds everything out. Like, he was fighting against his love.
Yeah.
So because of his mentality, his upbringing, his training, that all was like, now is the time I can use all this, and this is the time that we can actually affect change, and this is what's happening in the outside world, and he was aware of that. He was trying to put those ideals above his personal affections, and I can see that.
So something I thought of after the movie, when I was thinking about it, T'Challa and Killmonger have two completely different philosophies about how Wakanda should be governed, right? And how this society should go forward. T'Challa, the Black Panther's mentality is like, we should, not get involved in the affairs. We should work and we should be diplomatic. We should, be benevolent and serve. And Killmonger was like, no, we need to put these weapons. We need to radicalize, and eventually, we'll be able to wipe out a bunch of stuff and we'll be able to rule. And someone kind of mentioned this to me, and then I thought about it more. And this is kind of this kind of parallels some with, all the casting and the Afrocentric nature of the film, is that it seemed to me that the Black Panther, T'Challa, was kind of channeling Martin Luther King, and Killmonger's kind of channeling Malcolm X. They both want Wakanda to be a prosperous nation. They both want Wakanda to be powerful and to be self-sufficient and to be on its own, in a sense. But they have two very different strategies. One is peace, reasoning, diplomacy, and the other is aggression and war and taking the fight to the man, or to the people, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And it was something I started thinking about after a while, and I went, yeah, I feel like that's probably at least maybe the overtones. I mean, the characters aren't direct representations, but kind of the overtones of the two different paths, right? Mm-hmm. And we kind of see that play out. I did think it was interesting in this type of movie. We didn't get, we're not getting, the overarching story of the Infinity Stones. This isn't really an origin story per se, because we've already seen the character of Black Panther introduced. We're not going back and finding out how he got his powers, because we kind of have an idea and we kind of know, but it's more of the let's jump right in, and you've got these warring tribes and this kingdom that's kind of in this period of flux where they're trying to figure out the balance of power, which is the perfect time for a guy like Killmonger to come in, mm-hmm. because he's, what Martin Freeman's character says, that he's, it said something like he's got experience in destabilizing nations and overthrowing them. This mm-hmm. is what we've trained him to do.
Right.
And so it's kind of that perfect moment. And so that on itself, I thought was really good. Kind of that whole aspect of that. However, we get to the final fight of the movie, and you've got T'Challa and you've got Killmonger, right? You've got the Black Panther and Killmonger going at each other. I don't know about you, but I just found it, I don't know, I found it boring. I just, for some, if it did all the things it looked like and felt like it was going to do. I felt like the fight when they had the challenge at the first part, I felt that was more exciting than the fight at the end. It was we're fighting, we're punching, we're kicking, and now we're falling down, and we're fighting, and we're punching, and we're kicking while we're falling down. To me, it felt like I've seen this before other places. And then they get down, and then they're kind of fighting on the train, and I was waiting for them to take one another and smash each other's face into the train as it was moving by, or try to throw each other into the train. But it was the fight. Here comes the train. We split, and we just kind of dialogue at each other a little bit as the train goes by, and then fight. Oh, here comes another train. Let's just dialogue a little bit more. That whole end fight for me with the two of them seemed really anticlimactic. It really did. And when it basically comes to an end, I was kind of eh. But the fight the other fight though, where T'Challa basically gets his trash whooped, that fight I thought was exciting. Like that fight, I felt like there was more realism to it. Like it felt like there was more danger for the hero. Whereas at the end, I was kind of like, yeah, they're not going to kill off Black Panther. We know he's in the next movie.
Right, exactly.
But like, there was never any idea like maybe he's going to be injured. Maybe, maybe he'll almost be crippled or something that he would have to like heal from and come back from. I don't know. How did that sit with you at the very end?
So the fight at the end, I guess for me, it took place in a way that didn't bother me. Like I wasn't bored at it. It was a little bit hard to follow sometimes though, just because there was, the train going on. I was trying to watch the suits and how they were like reacting to the solar stuff and just trying to wrap my mind around what was actually happening to them. Were their suits like totally ineffective or, was it just them hand-to-hand combat, human to human, or they were still enhanced, but without the suit? I was trying to process all that stuff at the same time too. I do need to watch that scene again because I can see what you're saying. But I would think that if you try to put someone in a train like that, I mean, this is a Disney movie now.
Well,
we're not gonna have a gratuitous scene like that.
No, but like I mean, I guess like if you played around with the idea like this, like the suits weren't impenetrable at that point, but like they could do some damage and could still provided some protection. Like you could see someone like get thrown into the train and like take a heck of a whooping, but like bounce off the train and come back off. Maybe not like go in and under the tracks and gone, right. But just kind of like throw them into it. Like it would spin them and they'd go flying off. Like that would do a heck of a lot of damage. But it just felt like the only reason they fell down there was to basically kind of put them on an even playing level without the suits. And that kind of felt like that was the whole reason why we showed the train. It was the whole reason why we explained the dampeners, was just so it could facilitate this. Hey, let's show the shoots kind of shimmer and you can realize that they're going to just have to rely on their, I was about to say, natural abilities, but their enhanced abilities after eating the special mushrooms and and going at it, but still not having the suits. And I was like, well, okay. I mean, it just, I don't know. It could have been more intense, maybe, for me.
I wasn't expecting him until you saw the knife get tossed up that he was going to be stabbed to end the fight with that. That was kind of an interesting way to end it. Like it ended pretty quickly at that point. But, right. But yeah, I need to watch it again because I can see the points you're saying there. But for me, I was enthralled in the moment. Like I wasn't the earlier fights, the trial fights.
Yeah.
Both of them were actually like ones where you can kind of grip on the hands of your armrest as you're watching it. You're just kind of invested because you want to see what happens.
It's hand-to-hand combat. It's gritty. It's raw.
Mm-hmm. And this obviously didn't have that grittiness to it because, they had powers, they had suits, they had all this technology happening. It was kind of too busy for the scene because I think there could have been more focus on them. But then at the same time, if you would take that away a little bit, it'd either be a lot more violent of a fight that you wouldn't see in this Marvel movie, or
True.
It'd be too quick. So it was kind of a way to make you maybe lengthen a little bit, get that dialogue, try to have, Black Panther help turn him back to the, this isn't the way I want to do it. This is the way things should be done mentality. But, obviously his pleas to his cousin were falling on deaf ears at that point for obvious reasons. And let's talk about the villain. So, as a Marvel villain, how do you think Killmonger actually represents, stacking him up against the other Marvel villains that are out there? And did you think that he was going to be killed off or that they were going to keep him for another time?
I hoped they weren't going to kill him off. I really hoped they weren't going to, because I have this problem in movies where a great villain appears and they kill him off right away. I'm going to jump back because now it's a Disney property. Star Wars Episode 1, Darth Maul was a freaking bad-A. Mm-hmm. He looked amazing. He had a great way about him. Like, he looked sinister and he fought like just tenaciously, and then he gets chopped in half and he's done.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the movies. If you watch Star Wars Rebels, then, anyway. But it was like, boom, now we're done. It's like, okay. And I get that they did that for a reason. I still think it was kind of dumb, but boom, he's gone, right? You had Killmonger in this movie, and it was kind of the same thing. I was like, I kept thinking that. I'm like, don't kill him. Because he's an excellent villain. Like, he hits a lot of the right things, right? He's very strong. He's very intelligent. He's manipulative. Like, he knows how to like get to what he wants and how to use people. But on top of that, like, his character feels that what he is doing is right. And what he's doing is justified because of the injustice that had been done to his family and to him. Mm-hmm. And that kind of motivation in a villain makes some of the best possible villains. That's the reason why Magneto is a great villain. Because the justification that he has, the reasoning behind him, he feels what he's doing is right. He feels what he's doing is the only way to go about solving an injustice and fixing a problem. And that's how Killmonger looks at this. So having someone like that in the MCU going forward would be great, because it would have more drama. It would be another big villain that we could play on. I mean, who are the big villains that are still around? I mean, obviously we know Thanos is coming, right? But like stuff that's been previously established in the other movies, which villain?
Loki's the only one for sure,
right?
I believe. And then I think the rest of them were all killed off, except for
Bucky.
He's not a villain anymore. He's a good guy now.
But he's been turned.
We don't know exactly what happened to Red Skull. He could have been transported to an alternate dimension so he could pop back up again.
I doubt it, but you're right. It could happen.
I don't remember if Whiplash was killed or not. Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I don't see them bringing Whiplash back, though.
True. I'm just kind of thinking of it. Abomination from the Hulk. I think he's still alive, maybe. But I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, maybe. Gosh, I'm trying to think. But yeah. I mean, Loki's still around, obviously. But, Loki's Loki. So they're going to play that line with Loki. He's
all
going
the time. Yeah,
I mean, he's going to be a villain, but then he's going to do the good thing when it fits his purposes because otherwise, whatever. Hela Hela kind of, was done at the end of that movie.
She was a cool villain, too.
She was a very cool villain.
But, yeah, again, dead. Wasn't the Ragnarok monster still around, but was he really technically a villain?
Yeah, right. I don't think so. The Dark Elves from Thor 2.
I think they were all killed.
Obviously,
the ice giants are still there, but the frost giants are still around. But there's peace between those realms,
right?
So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where the only villain I think that they've established as a great recurring villain that isn't dead yet, and he's not even in the movies, is Kingpin from MCU,
right?
Like Daredevil, like he is He's like Killmonger in a way. Like he loves his city and he's going about it the way he thinks is right. He doesn't see what he's doing as wrong, and he's just so blinded by the fact that he wants to accomplish his goals and his purposes, which are good on the surface, but the way you get there is not the right way. But he's a villain that they need to bring to the big screen. I can't believe Kingpin is just sitting there on the sidelines.
Yeah, doing nothing in the MCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. I think we do lack proper villains in the MCU right now. If we had, let's talk about DC, right? Batman's got the Joker. Never really kills the Joker. I mean, the Joker continues to pop up over and over and over again, right? It's this constant back and forth, right? Superman has Lex Luthor, kind of this similar thing going on, right? Batman also has like the Riddler. I mean, Batman's got a lot of different villains.
Oh yeah.
Bane and Poison Ivy and
the Spider-Man villains are still alive from that movie.
The Vulture,
so Vulture, Shocker, those were both in the prison scene there.
Yep.
Because I was thinking of people who don't kill. Spider-Man doesn't kill, and obviously you said Batman doesn't kill, Superman doesn't kill. That's why DC has that great rogues gallery, is because none of them kill. They just lock them up. and they'll break out when it serves their time.
Batman does kill. Let's be honest. He does kill, but he doesn't end up killing the big villains.
True.
So yeah, I think Killmonger going forward, if they could have kept him around, like if he took the other choice and he would have stood trial, like he could have like sat in prison and he could have waited until he would have been broken free by someone else, or something could happen, and then he could be a player on the world stage again in the MCU. So I mean,
so he had the choice, right? The Black Panther offered the choice to heal him or not, but he's like, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to put me in chains? I don't want to. If I have a choice between death and bondage, I'm going to choose death. And it was a pretty profound statement there that he made, affecting back to, the unfortunate history that we have with slavery. And when he dies, throw him in the water like his brothers who knew that death was better than bondage. I mean, that was profound. I mean, I don't know if that was a quote from somewhere or not, but for that to be in a Marvel movie,
right,
really says something. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely see the reasoning behind it of what he did. He made his choice.
Yep. Yeah, he definitely made his choice, and I get it. And like from his character's perspective, like that fits with his character 100%. As a viewer, I would have liked to have seen him around again, because Michael B. Jordan played the heck out of that character. I mean,
it was fantastic.
Just fantastic.
And the guy that played his father, by the way, I don't know if you watch This Is Us. I watch a little bit of it now and then.
I haven't, but I know who that guy is. Yeah,
he's a fantastic actor, and I loved seeing him and his intensity. He no matter what he's doing, his intensity is fantastic.
I remember his father played one of the lawyers for the prosecution in the People versus O.J. Simpson movie or TV movie. And I remember him from there as well. And I kept thinking back then, I was like, this dude can act. I was like, he's got some chops.
But yeah, this cast is fantastic.
Yeah, top to bottom, I didn't think there was anyone that like stood out there like, all right, I mean, they were kind of okay. I didn't feel that about anyone. They were all great. Even the cameo by Stan Lee was good. And it was a little less maybe kind of schlocky as some of his other cameos have been in a few of the movies. Like, I'll just hold on to these and takes his chips. I thought that was pretty good.
I thought that was good. What did you think of when T'Challa became the Black Panther the first time? After he was buried, he went to like the ancestral plane, saw his father, talked with him. What did you think of that scene?
I loved it. I kept waiting for the Lion King music to start. Na Savenya Dadichua Homenya. No, I really loved it because it was beautiful. And that goes for this whole movie. Like, the visuals in this movie were beautiful. And that scene, like, you've got like kind of like the sky was kind of that purple color, and I think that they weren't playing a lot, like, at least I don't recall them playing a lot of music. So it was a little quiet, like the background music and the noise was quieter, so that the dialogue there and the conversation he was having with his father was the star of that scene. And it almost was kind of like the end of Field of Dreams, when the dad says, do you want to have a catch? And like the son knows who the dad is, and the dad kind of knows who the son is. And it's like this father-son kind of bonding moment that like never happened in life. And like that's kind of how that was here, where it was like, even though I think they probably had bonding moments because they seemed close, but there was that it was something where he says like, he says, I'm not prepared for this, and he says, you were trained and you were raised and you were taught and you were learned, and then he says, I was not prepared to do this without you. And then just had like that one single tear go down his eye. I was like, oh my, whoo, because it was just like I lost my dad, like 16 years ago. And like, there's not a day that goes by where like, I don't miss my dad and like wish I could spend more time with him and be with him. And like, I kind of felt that when my dad passed. I was like, I was just turning 23, by all, legal, requirements, I was an adult, but I didn't feel like an adult. I was like, I don't feel prepared to be an adult and, to one day become a, husband and a father. And, I wish she would have been here. And so like, for me, like that moment, like hit me because I had a personal connection there And like that's kind of what that scene was for me. It was beautifully shot, it was beautifully done, but it was also that like, you know, it was probably the only part of the movie that I felt was like really truly emotional. Everything else just kind of felt a little more surface level to me. But
so for me, that scene, obviously it is an emotional scene. I wasn't crying necessarily, but my eyes they were a little misty. There was a lady sitting next to me though, that she was crying like full on out at that scene.
Really?
And so obviously, you know, she was able to make that emotional connection to that too. And when you have a movie that is able to make you laugh, make you cry, make you think, it's done its job. And to get that from a Marvel movie, from a comic book movie, people are like, all this from a comic book movie? You know, people are just kind of disparaging it because it's, you know,
they come from comic books, yeah, and it's easy to like kick it and say like, oh, this is, you know, worthless. This isn't. It's for kids or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But to get a movie that is able to fire on those cylinders and to create those reactions, and really be overall like well done, that's kind of why I rated it as high as I did in the beginning. You know, and I still think that it's a great movie. I wasn't expecting it to be able to do that. I don't think I've ever been even close to crying at any other Marvel movie. And for this scene, relatively early on in the movie, to kind of create that moment, to really just frame that shot beautifully, to really just, you know, it's a son talking to his father for that little bit of closure. It's, you know, that scene about not ready to do this without you. I mean, that is real. Right. There's no son and a father that you couldn't say that about, you know? And it's just, it was powerful. This movie had powerful moments and a powerful theme. And that's really why I love it as much as I do. They went places that you don't necessarily think that it was going to. It could have just been a romp. You know, we were in Tokyo, we're doing this, we're having crazy times with Claw, and he's got a mixtape and all this other jazz.
Right.
But you put this in there, and you have the statements from Killmonger at the end and representing, you know, depressed people, not depressed people.
Oppressed.
Oppressed, yes, thank you. People that are out there, because that is real. You know, he was coming from Oakland, California, and that is a thing. And them saying, you know, this is got to change. We have to change this. His speech to the United Nations, you know, it kind of pokes at the current political climate a little bit, you know, but it is true. Like,
I mean, that line, like, should, he says, you know, we should be I'm trying to remember. It's like, we should be building bridges to help one another instead of building walls and hiding behind them.
Right. Only fool builds a wall to hide behind it instead of a bridge to join his brother or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. It was beautiful. Like a beautiful line.
I mean, you're getting all this. And again, from a disparaging comment from a comic book movie, people, I think, hopefully would see this movie and realize that themes of any sort of medium, whether it be written, you know, graphic novel, comic book, film, audio, no matter what it is, no matter what the story is, it has a message that can be conveyed. And if it does it in the right way, everybody can understand the message. And that's, I think, what this did. So
at the top of this, I said that I liked the movie, but I kind of felt it was a little boring. And I did say that I felt like maybe the hype was a big reason why I was kind of a little down on this, because my hype was way too high for this thing going in, and I probably should have toned that down a bit. Here's the thing, though. I think this is a movie you should see in the theaters. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great movie to see in the theaters, you know, just for the visuals and the music alone. But movies like this, where I come out of it and I have a different result than what I thought I was going to going in, and it's in like, let's say, more of a negative way than I thought. Like, if I go into a movie and I come out like really excited for it, or I really loved it, you know, that's one thing. But when I come out of it like this, where I was like, I don't know, like I didn't love it, I always go back and I see the movie a second time in the theater, because I want to like give it. I usually try to give it at least a couple days like me kind of process some things and then go back and see it. And then now I know the things. Now I know kind of what the story's about. And then I try to like just soak it in more as a sponge and just say, let's take this in for what it is. Let's see how I feel about it. And that's what I'm going to do with this film. So even though I said like I didn't think it was like the greatest Marvel movie ever, I do still like it. I did think it was a good movie. I just didn't love it. But I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to go see it again in the theater, and see if if that for me was, if I was accurate the first time, or if maybe I just hyped myself up too much, and now that kind of the hype is kind of washed out of me, I'm going to be able to see it and I'm going to be able to take it in differently than I did the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to try to do for me. But I would recommend if you're a comic book fan, if you're a Marvel fan, if you're a Black Panther fan, or if you're a fan of like strong badass women, go see this film, because I think it's up your alley. That's just me though. That's what I'm saying here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this, Nathan. So let's talk about how this movie fits in to the greater MCU now, because this movie came out and now we know the next movie on the docket is Avengers Infinity War. Let's go back to the end of Civil War. At the very end of Civil War, we see Cap and Ant-Man and I was going to say Hawkeye. Oh, dang it. What's his name? Birdman. I can't think of his name. He's got the wings, the backpack.
Yeah.
Falcon,
yes.
I was going to say Condor Man. I'm like, no, that's a different movie from my childhood. But they're all like in this kind of like floating prison that's out in the middle of like the ocean. And then there's like, like a breakout. Mm-hmm. And we end up seeing Captain America with T'Challa in Wakanda. Okay. Mm-hmm. So here's my question. When does that scene happen? Because this movie picks up right after the end of Civil War. So are we to assume then that the Civil War, post-credit scene happens after this movie? And T'Challa finds out where they are and then goes and saves them and, breaks them out or whatever and brings them to Wakanda? Or was Captain America hiding out in Wakanda the whole time all this stuff was going on, but maybe was so hidden and isolated that he didn't know any of this was going on?
So I never took it to think that Captain America was hiding out in Wakanda. I just figured he dropped Bucky off and left. So I would say that he's elsewhere doing his thing, because he's got his own people that he's trying to track down. At the end of that movie, he was trying to go down another path. So we get the line from his sister, another white boy for us to fix. I assume she's also referring to Bucky as the other one.
Right.
But there could be multiples, who knows. So I would assume that the timing was at the beginning of this film, when they were coming back from Wakanda with the father being dead, that he was in the back of that shuttle with them at that point. You don't see it in this movie. Because you saw that, load him off, then you have the scene later. That would probably fit if it was all supposed to be one cohesive scene.
See, the thing is, the only reason I guess maybe I think that Cap is there, or maybe was there, is because we also have the Avengers Infinity War trailer where you got T'Challa talking and he's like, and get that man a shield. And you see him and he's in like these very like darkened colors. And like, I get the impression like he's in Wakanda at that time. Now, maybe that's later in the movie, because we know that some of this battle with Thanos looks like it takes place in Wakanda based on that trailer. So maybe it's just later in the movie that happens. Mm-hmm. But I kind of thought maybe Cap was still there. Definitely, I knew we know Bucky's there because we obviously see him in the post-credits scene. Here's a big thing though that I know a lot of people are anticipating. We were going to see an Infinity Stone in this movie. That didn't happen. This movie had nothing to do with the Soul Stone. Mm-hmm. Which is like
that's the only one that's missing, right? The Soul Gem.
It's the only one that we haven't seen, which is kind of interesting to me, because obviously some of them were, with the Guardians of the Galaxy, some were with Thor originally, and then, some obviously like the Tesseract, was here on Earth and whatnot. So like we've had some stuff here, the Gauntlet was, with Odin's Vault, or maybe it was in Odin's Vault, depending on, whether or not you believe Hela. So a lot of people were saying we're going to see the Soul Stone in this movie, and then we can have seen all 6 stones prior to going into Infinity War. That didn't happen. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people previous to the movie thought that we were going to see in a post-credit scene Agent Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, make an appearance. And because technically Samuel L. Jackson's not dead, right? I mean, we think he dies, but then he kind of comes back, and then he just kind of disappears at the end of, what's that, Winter Soldier? Or was it Civil War?
Yes.
The beginning of Civil War.
No, he wasn't in Civil War, I don't believe.
Yeah, so somewhere, I think Winter Soldier. What is Nick Fury doing? Where is he at? A lot of people thought that he was going to show up here, like he'd been hanging out in Wakanda, like trying to recruit T'Challa.
Well, maybe he has the last Infinity Stone. Maybe he grabbed that last thing before S.H.I.E.L.D. fell and has been guarding it himself.
Ooh, that would be a good plot twist, because then he could appear in Infinity War, or maybe in the next one, the second one, and it would be a good excuse for him to show back up.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe Thanos already has it.
That's what I think too. I think it's possible that Thanos already has that one, and we don't need to have our heroes have it or be guarding it or find it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah, because if Thanos has one and then finds out that there are more, and then once you put them together it'll cause whatever, then he'll set out to do it. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because that would give him a motivation or drive. Like, well, I got one, let's go complete the set.
Yeah. So I know that was something that that wasn't put in, and I know Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther, said he didn't really want to have that be kind of his storyline, because that's kind of like the big MacGuffin, right? It's like it's the big thing. He says we already have vibranium. He's like, how many big things do we have to have? How many? He's like, we've got our thing, and protecting the vibranium is really important, and obviously can be, used for ill purposes, and so like that's going to be our thing. And so that's why he said they didn't put one in their movie.
Yeah. Well, it could be fun. I know there was no Infinity Stone at all, but what could have been fun is if they would have put something in that museum that would have lent to the Infinity Stone just kind of being in a museum somewhere at the beginning. I thought that would have been kind of fun, but at the same time, just a cameo, not a big plot point. You know what I mean?
Right. Just something. Just a taste. Mm-hmm. You don't want to eat it, you just want to taste it, to quote Winnie the Pooh.
That's true.
So, give me your 2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down, 1 thumb up, 1 thumb down. Are you going to recommend this to everyone you see? Are you going to, go on the internet and rage and rant? Where are you at?
So 2 thumbs up. First off, I would recommend this movie to anybody who wants to go see it. In fact, after I saw it, I said that I was blown away on Twitter by Black Panther. And I was taken aback by just the vastness of the characterizations that they were able to bring with all the characters, and the fantastic acting and the great visuals and audio with the score. Is just everything was the complete package for me. So if you're a film buff, for sure, this is a good movie to go see. And it fit the bill for me. I really enjoyed it. I want to see it again. However, with my 2-month-old son, I don't know if that'll happen. And with me traveling all over the country the next few months, I'll have limited opportunities to do so. But I would love to see it again in the theaters before it goes out. But it's one that I'm definitely going to buy day one, the 4K Blu-ray, and watch it again at home, because it was fantastic. It was a great story, and I love the fact that they ended it the way they did, with Wakanda coming and revealing itself to the world, and the scene like, you guys are farmers, what are you going to bring to the world, and him just laughing, about to kind of answer the questions. I I am looking forward to seeing where this story continues to go for the Wakandan people, for Black Panther. So I'm definitely looking forward to a Black Panther 2, but I'm also looking forward to Infinity War because he's going to be there.
Right.
So, and that's only a couple months away. I mean, that's really close.
It's like May 4th. Yeah. I'm going to give this like a 1 thumb up, 1 thumb teetering towards the up, but not quite there yet because I think for me it needs a second viewing. It does follow the Marvel formula. If you're tired of that, you're gonna go in knowing that that's there. But there are some beautiful moments, and there is some touching scenes. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. I would definitely recommend going seeing it. I'm gonna go see it a second time and see kind of where I'm at. But if you're a Marvel guy, if you're a comic book movie kind of guy, I think you have to go see this. Because it is going to fill in a lot about the area, the land of what Wakanda is. Mm-hmm. Because obviously we know some of that's going to take place. The next movie is going to take place in Wakanda, and if you have that background and you understand maybe the rich history of it, like that may broaden your appreciation of the next movie. And I think that for that reason as well, you should go see it. So. 1 thumb up, 1 thumb almost all the way up.
75%.
75%, yeah. 75. one 1 3/4 thumbs up.
There you go.
I don't know how you do that, but I'm bending at one knuckle, but the other two are up. I don't know. So anyway, Nathan, thank you for joining me. I'm glad we got the chance to talk about this like right after the movie's coming out. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's so many times where like a movie comes out and then I've decided in the past to sit on it for a good month until people have had a chance to see it before we can talk about it on a podcast. And I feel like that's a disservice because I want to get this out and I want to talk about things while it's fresh and while other people are talking about it. And so if you listen to this and you hadn't seen the movie and we just spoiled a ton of stuff for you, we did warn you. Mm-hmm. But anyway, thanks for sticking around, Nathan. Thank you for joining me tonight. It was a lot of fun doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. And who's the sidekick? Is it you? Is it me?
The Black Panther's the sidekick.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll sign it off the way we always do. May the Force be with you. Always.